I was 23, living in New York City, making my start as a science journalist, and I got an email that changed my life forever. It was from my little sister, who I'd never met before, inviting me to her high school graduation in Haiti. I grew up in the US with my mother, and she grew up in Haiti with our father, who I hadn't seen since I was 11 years old. I was nervous, but ultimately I decided to go to the world's first free Black republic, to the place of half my genetic origin. I went to reconnect with my family and explore a part of my cultural heritage that I never understood. And when I was there for the first time in my life, I felt whole. About 6 months later, I was back in New York City, and on January 12th, 2010, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti. It took the telecom systems a week to come back online, and while I waited to hear if my family was alive or dead, I did what I always do in times of uncertainty. Right. I blogged furiously as I watched the breaking news reports roll in, watching the death toll increase from dozens confirmed to hundreds to thousands, up and up. I wrote so obsessively that eventually I was contacted by an editor at Wired, my dream publication. He offered me a job managing a new website they set up called Haiti Rewired. It was a platform for community journalism about the reconstruction, meant to keep the conversation and the public discourse about this disaster that ultimately claimed 300,000 lives. We wanted people to think about it longer than the typical 2-week attention span we give to distant disasters. When the dust settled and I learned my family was okay, I accepted the job and I went to Haiti to manage Haiti Rewired. I had no formal training in disaster journalism, but I went day after day, traversing the wreckage, through the rubble, through the tent cities with the 1.3 million people displaced from their homes. I coordinated with first responders, humanitarian medics, residents who had their lives shattered in an instant, and members of the Haitian diaspora abroad. At first, Haiti Rewired was a success. Through the platform, thousands of people around the world rallied around Haiti. We produced critical information about the reconstruction efforts. We made construction manuals in Creole, independent reporting, documentation of the successes and failures of the aid missions. We created a record of this critical moment in global history. I dreamed of creating a rewired site for every country that was facing a disaster. But this wasn't on Wired's roadmap. Eventually, my colleagues left the project and then left the company, and I was left alone managing the project. Eventually, I moved on from Wired as well, but I continued to maintain Haiti Rewired for free in my spare time. And then one day in 2015, I got an email from someone at Wired saying they would no longer be maintaining the site. Did I want it? I didn't have the capacity, but they told me if I didn't take it, then it would have no chance to live on. I was stunned. I couldn't believe that they would shutter this website, this artifact. Contained years of firsthand accounts, reporting, technical guidance that could be used to people in subsequent earthquakes. But I couldn't just give up. So I agreed to take over the Haiti Rewired account. But they didn't just transfer me the credentials, they also transferred me a hefty recurring hosting bill. As a freelance journalist living in New York City, still processing the earthquake, I was struggling to even pay my own bills. And now I was expected to be responsible for the upkeep of this platform containing thousands of people's intellectual property and vital historical records. At first, I rallied the old team. We got together. We paid for the first couple cycles of hosting, and then they tapped out. And again, I was left with the responsibility of the payments, and when I couldn't maintain it on my own, Haiti Rewired was deleted. The database, along with all that knowledge, purged. You know, when I signed up for this job, for earthquake recovery, I knew I was in for some harrowing scenes, but I accepted it. At 24 years old, I accepted this enormous task, and because it was my choice, I could handle being immersed in death. I was prepared for all the violence and the chaos that the Western media told me to expect there, even though none of it ever happened. Not then, not when people were mourning. But it never, ever occurred to me that the biggest threat to all of this journalistic work would come not from anywhere in Haiti, but from a sleek office in San Francisco in the form of a cold, blasé email. I did everything I could to keep Haiti Rewired afloat. But I was one person, and eventually Haiti Rewired turned to dust in an instant and with no proper burial. I often wondered, why had this corporation that promised to create and preserve knowledge suddenly decided that responsibility wasn't theirs anymore? Why had they placed this burden on me? Even if I had unlimited resources, unlimited personal funds, should I have been responsible for the maintenance of a corporate asset just because I cared? Whatever the case, what this represents is a systemic failure. The fault slipped under Haiti Rewired, and it took years of my life's work with it, but it also left something behind. It exposed the flaws in our current digital knowledge systems. You see, much like the tectonic plates beneath the Caribbean, there are seismic shifts in the fabric of our internet. If we think of our digital knowledge as buildings, we've built them in ways that are not up to code. Their foundations rest on centralized systems, single points of failure that are fragile, subject to business decisions, political preferences, and changing priorities. When things shift in the business landscapes, a bankruptcy, a redesign, a change in leadership, the whole building can collapse. My experience with Haiti Rewired revealed a fundamental vulnerability in how we preserve our digital knowledge, a vulnerability that threatens our collective memory and ultimately our understanding of truth itself. The common belief that the internet never forgets is dangerously false. I learned from the former head of Wikipedia that this is part of a larger phenomenon called memory holding or link rot. And once I knew what to look for, I saw the patterns everywhere. According to the Internet Archive, 6% of all websites are deleted each year, disappear. A Columbia Journalism Review study found that of all the links in the New York Times articles published between 1996 and 2019, about a quarter are inaccessible. A Harvard Law study found that of all of the links to sources in US Supreme Court opinions, 50% at least are no longer accessible after an average of 5 years. This digital decay has profound implications for society. When our digital historical record can be altered or deleted without a trace, the truth itself becomes fragile. Right around the time when Haiti Rewired started to falter, I started wondering, could we design better systems so that what happened to Haiti Rewired and so many other publications wouldn't happen again? Could I? If centralized systems were vulnerable, then logically, decentralized systems were what to explore. So I dove into the world of blockchain. And I soon realized it had applications beyond cryptocurrencies. I was fascinated by its core properties: permanence, immutability, and true digital ownership. In 2015, I recognized that blockchain could become the backbone of a new decentralized media infrastructure. This is what inspired me to found my company and build a system that empowers individual authors to maintain ownership and control of their content. Through this system, we're actively shifting both the responsibility for the preservation of journalistic assets and the benefits of the value that those assets afford to authors, first and foremost. They have the greatest stake in ensuring that their content survives. Then they can shift it to larger ecosystems like publications, archives, or AI systems if they so choose. Coupled with decentralized storage, we now have the recipe for a media system that is significantly harder to censor, alter, or erase, regardless of who holds political or economic power. This is what I'm building with every fiber of my being. Media infrastructure that can resist the seismic shifts of the industry that's impervious to collapse. I envision a future where journalists and writers don't have to depend on the success of a single publication to ensure that our work survives, where the voices documenting our era's most important events remain accessible for future generations. I'm not here to save journalism. I don't think this is something that any one person or entity can do. I'm here to configure and promote the use of technologies that enable the collective reassessment of how we access and preserve human knowledge in the digital age. What's at stake goes far beyond any single publication. Throughout history, societies have depended on record keeping, not just to remember, but to resist. And we need that now more than ever. All over the world, democracies are failing, journalists are being silenced, and the boundary between fact and fake news is becoming increasingly thin. What we choose to preserve and how will define what future generations understand about this moment. When I think about Haiti Rewired, I don't just see lost articles and forum posts. I see the faces of the people who banded together to help a nation in mourning. I see lived experiences. I see a chapter in history we no longer have the ability to revisit. I see a gap in our collective understanding. Haiti Rewired is gone forever. We can't recover what's already been lost, but we can build systems that prevent similar losses in the future. One day, historians will look back and try and make sense of this present moment. Will we leave them a clear record or a landscape littered with digital black holes? The technology to build more resilient systems exists. The problem is not technological. It's moral. It's human. The question is whether we have the wisdom and the will to act before our digital heritage disappears. Because once it's gone, it's gone. Thank you.